Welcome to the Combat and Conversation podcast. I'm the host, Nikita Cronus. Today, I'm very lucky to be sitting with Vickie Simos, a multiple award-winning athlete and novelist who has her book, The Boxer Within, where she talks about her own experiences as a fighter and also how you can apply the fighting principles into your own life. She is also a businesswoman with the company Fellow, which explores the relationship between psychotherapy and martial arts. We're very lucky to have Vickie Simos in studio here today, so we hope you enjoy the podcast.
I want people to understand that I think we underestimate what we've got here and here. Because I teach them to fight so they don't.
Yeah.
You use your body, you use your words, but if someone puts hands on...
Where did you grow up?
Country.
Adelaide?
No, country out of Adelaide, 222 kilometres north of Adelaide.
Oh, wow.
And it's called the Riverland, and it's got like little towns. So I grew up in one of the towns there.
And were you fighting from a young age?
I started training in karate, taekwondo at 15 for a boy.
Oh, okay.
It's in my book. For a boy.
Oh,
a boy that I liked in high school started training.
Oh, my gosh.
And
That's
my brother, because my brother was in the martial arts first.
Yeah.
And then he goes, guess who's training? And I'm like, gotta go.
And because of that, you decided to do it?
Yeah.
Oh,
and then I wasn't very good. Oh, my God, for months I was crying.
How old were you?
15.
15 years old, and you only did it because of a boy? Because of a love interest.
Absolutely. That's why where it started.
Uh-huh.
I did not get the boy, but I really enjoyed the
attention. Because you got to be around him. But so when did the fighting interest come later on in life?
The fighting interest was never even really there. I mean, in Taekwondo, we did like sparring and stuff, but it was very controlled sparring.
Right.
What they call 2-step, 3-step sparring. So it wasn't just full in. And then when I moved to Adelaide and started at a gym, so in Taekwondo, it was hard. It was traditional.
Yeah.
And they just didn't give out black belts like they did moving forward.
Right, okay.
I ended up with a brown belt black stripe.
Yeah.
Then decided to move to Adelaide because I got into TAFE there. And then someone was telling me, so I played soccer for 5 years, so I left the martial arts for 5 years.
Where'd you play soccer?
I played in Adelaide, Fulham United and Norwood Blacks.
Oh, wow. What position were you?
Keeper.
Oh, fantastic. That's great.
Yeah, I love it.
Nice.
So I'm looking for sponsorship actually to help out some teams.
There you go.
Vice versa, train like the individuals there using both my skills. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I played for 5 years because they didn't have a girls team back in the day. Yeah, we only had indoor. Okay. So I only got recruited through indoor because my cousin played and they needed a keeper, and we found that, hey, I can keep pretty well. Yeah. And then someone was asking around, hey, girls, do you want to, we'll make an outdoor soccer team? Started with them.
You know, it's funny though that there is I've heard this on actually another podcast before, that there is there is an easier transition for some reason between particularly boxers and soccer players. I think it has something to do with like footwork and quick feet. I've heard this before.
Well, where I used to train in Adelaide, my trainees train loads of soccer players, and I train a little soccer player now.
Oh, beautiful!
Yeah, he's trained to be a keeper, so it was perfect.
Oh, amazing! Well, there you go. You can teach him the ropes. Oh, that's great. So, how was your life in Adelaide? How was your sort of growing up experience there, or when you were there, when you were studying?
Challenge to begin with.
Yeah.
To be honest, so growing up in the country. Definitely knew I was not meant for country.
Right.
Moved to the city, had to try and fit in to be a city person. Then you go back to the country and you're different there as well.
Yeah.
So very difficult to try and find an identity was possibly the hardest thing.
Really?
Yeah, because my cousin, my cousin was like the best, you know. She was going out, she had the friends, she had a job, she like everything is sort of, you know, I didn't get in the country. So then we were hanging. So her friends became my friends, but obviously different personalities, and then just trying to find your feet.
Yeah, of course.
Know?
And then I'm assuming that martial arts, in some way, when you started getting into it, helped you develop that identity.
Well, the only reason I started was to get my black belt.
That was it.
And 11 years later, I was still there. So I'd heard that this trainer helps you attain black belts from other martial arts. So once I stopped playing soccer, because of the politics, we won't get into that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh my
of
God.
course, there's plenty of politics. I'm aware of it.
Again, because I vocalised.
Yes.
Anyway, so I went and found him, and I used to drive past the gym because I used to work near there.
Okay.
So I'm like, something drew me in. Anyway, stopped, had a chat to him. I said, look, I've heard you help people get their black belts. He knew about Taekwondo, which doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately.
What's it called, sorry?
Taekwondo.
Taekwondo.
So it's a very traditional
Okay.
Very traditional. Like they don't, like I said, they don't give away black belts.
And it doesn't exist anymore?
No, it's not around. It changed to World Taekwondo, which was a little less, more traditional from my understanding.
Oh, wow.
From where I used to train and where I heard, this was in the country, it changed quite a bit. But the traditional Taekwondo, you really had to earn your stripes. It wasn't.
And you went to this guy purely because you wanted to get that?
The black belt. But and then I stayed 11 years and not only exceeded all expectations.
11 years you studied?
Stayed there.
Oh, you stayed?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
So, because he was multidisciplined. Right? Okay. So he kickboxing, stick fighting, boxing.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So it was sort of like a way to just get into martial arts as a whole as opposed to just focusing.
Well, I didn't know he did all that until I was there. My aim was I'm going to stay 6 months, hopefully get my black belt, and that's it. But it wasn't quite the case because he was very unorthodox in the way he did things, and he could make you or he could break you.
Yeah, fair enough. I understand.
And I think I know in retrospect I needed that. So
yeah, of course. Well, there's I guess there's a certain amount of discipline that someone needs to sort of undertake before they can actually start forming a proper identity, because you don't really know who you are until you put yourself under the ringer.
Well,
so
and that, exactly right, and that is exactly right, because you don't until you get in the ring, and that's what I found when I've had my first fight.
Yes, yeah.
Lucky I didn't get knocked out. I'd lost a lot of weight. The way I had to do that was incredible, and I don't even know how I did it.
Well, let's get into that, because you've written a book called The Boxer Within.
Correct.
Right, and it's a very well-renowned book, particularly across like sort of local fight circles here in Melbourne and Adelaide as well. What was sort of the impetus in writing that, and does it relate to sort of having your first fight and what that meant for you?
Absolutely. But it's also got the fight that I did win, because I had about 7 boxing fights. I didn't win them all, bar one. Yeah. And that was all to do with mindset.
All of it.
The skill was there. So I fought both in stick fighting, kickboxing and boxing, but boxing was my Achilles, I guess.
Yeah, bronze medalist, stick fighting.
Two silvers and a bronze, and then I won also a gold in the Pan Pacifics. Yeah, that's right.
Fantastic.
But with the boxing, there was something about it, because you're in the ring, it's you and an opponent and your head, which was my downfall, basically. Right. Because even before entering, it was like, what if I lose? What if my friends watch? What are they going to say? Oh, my God. And by that stage, you had mentally exhausted yourself.
It's funny you say that, because like obviously at Five Fit, the main, one of the biggest promotional activities we have throughout the year is called our 5 Fit Challenge, which is where, people sign up, they train for a period of time like an actual professional fighter, and you get people, who are working as labourers or working just random jobs.
That's a great concept.
It's fantastic. But the biggest thing, as far as like I've been going to just watch those fights for the past few years, the biggest thing is that once they're done, win or lose, it's like, I can't believe I was able to implement that mentality, or like I was able to overcome any type of insecurity I had and sort of stick it out and train hard and develop the mindset of a fighter. And that's the whole thing, is that like those challenges are there to challenge you mentally as well as physically.
Absolutely.
It's the biggest thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But not to burst the bubbles, yes. You think that's what I thought in my first fight.
Yeah.
But depending on your conditioning and everything that's happened, to you, it doesn't sometimes take one fight. It might take 6 or 7 fights, like in my case.
Yeah.
Where you've almost won, or literally, for me, it was my mind that let me down, not mindset. Very disciplined in my fighting. Yeah. I was ring fit and, outdoor fit, aerobically. Yeah. Probably the fittest, that I had ever been. But yet that my head let me down, basically.
What do you think it was, looking back? Like what
I know what it was. It was I just didn't think I was good enough.
Okay. That's a big thing, obviously, across all sports, but especially fighters as well.
Well, you're in the ring with one person and they just want to knock you out. But what I did find in mental strength was the training. Like that, you tell me if I need to fight, my brain, my body knows. I mean, I had to lose quite a bit of weight. Yeah. Because I was fighting the under 60.
Okay.
And I thought that was going to be easy, but no, it was not.
It wasn't.
And the story that I tell in the book, and I'll kill it now for the viewers, I lost 3 kilos in an hour.
In an hour?
In an hour.
Jeez, that's a harsh cut.
Yeah, it was a bit of a sip of vodka.
Wow.
Training, running around. So as a stick fighter, just to go a different direction, you have to wear 4 kilos of armour.
Okay.
Which includes headgear, elbow pads, gloves, the whole shebang.
Yep.
So after training, normal training, with all that gear on, sip of vodka, then I had to go for a run. And by that stage, I'd made the 3 kilo drop. But that was literally 2 days before.
It's funny you say that because it's such a prescient topic now, even amongst fighters and professionally. The gruesome weight cuts that some people have to go through. It's kind of bizarre to me that it's still. I guess it's as ubiquitous as what you would imagine. Like it's obviously not the best for your health, particularly from like in a
absolutely
short
not
form.
3 kilos in an hour. But I learned the good thing was your body then knows what it needs to do, right?
Yeah.
So by your 6th, 7th fight, like I remember times I'd eat normally, whatever, and you still made weight.
How was your second fight after?
Well, that was kind of cancelled and rescheduled.
Okay.
Because I ended up with some injuries pre to that fight. So I ended up with a cracked rib and
during sparring.
Yes, and a broken nose.
Oh, hard sparring.
Yeah.
Right before the fight?
2 days, was it?
2 days
no,
before the
4
fight?
days, Tuesday. The fight was on, I think, a Friday, and I was training on the Tuesday morning with my trainer and...
Your trainer broke your nose?
Cartilage. Bastard. Let's call it cartilage.
Bastard.
It wasn't a complete break.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, his mentality, and I get it, right? You want to, you'd rather be in a controlled environment. Yeah, sometimes things happen. That's the risk you take getting in there.
Yeah, especially like
regardless, right? It's not like he intended that was going to happen.
Yeah.
It will sometimes happen.
Yeah.
And you've got to take that risk. But his mentality is, how much do you want to?
Who's your trainer so we can out him?
No, we don't. I'm not going to out him.
Okay, fair enough. But that's insane.
His gym unfortunately no longer exists because of COVID. But this is when I was in Adelaide and I...
Yeah.
But I still 100% respect him because that's the sort of training I needed.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah, no,
not the broken nose and the cracked rib or whatever, but the discipline behind
Absolutely. And look, I mean, you can, a quick YouTube search and you'll find 60 billion videos of people going a bit too hard in sparring and then issues like that popping up. I mean, you see it all the time with UFC fighters pulling out last minute because they've got a cracked rib or they've broken their nose or something.
Well, I kind of had to. That's what I said. It was days before and it's like, because one of my clients, because I was a trainer back then, she was a doctor.
Yeah.
So I'm like, can you have a look at these x-rays? Oh, someone's rib is cracked. Oh, that would be mine. Okay. So I'm not fighting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
so it wasn't even like a pre-planned thing. Like, I'm going to go get this checked out. It was more like a last minute.
You kind of like, if you've got something.
Yeah, of course.
You can't breathe properly. But I did... Crazily, this is how fit I was. I ran, we have an equivalent, I think, of you guys. I don't know what the run is. It's a 12K run that you guys have here.
In Melbourne?
In Melbourne. We have a city to bay.
Okay.
And it's run over here. Okay. And despite the crack grip, I still ran the city to bay.
Oh, fantastic.
Because I wanted to see how mentally challenging that was going to be.
That reminds me very much of David Goggins types. Obviously, probably not as extreme, but you know David
Goggins. Yes, I do.
Yeah, he takes it to the absolute extreme, of course. Yeah. But there is something, as you said, about like even when you are experiencing some type of particularly physical adversity, like how you overcome that is obviously a test of your mental strength and fortitude. It's the biggest thing.
Oh, absolutely.
But throughout the whole of life, right? And that's the one thing that I think, at least I've personally experienced just being around at 5 but also just boxers growing up is there's the principles that you apply to sport like that you can take anywhere in life.
Absolutely.
That's
and with my business, because I work a business,
right?
Fellow Active Therapy, where I use martial arts as an alternative combination to therapy, basically. And I work with kids, mainly kids who are neurodivergent, but would work with anyone. And that's what I try and implement. Like what I do with you guys is nothing compared to what you're going to get out there. And a lot of them come to me, bullying, learning difficulties. It's really hard for them at school. Some don't even go to school because they have had PTSD from, certain traumas. So I try and implement, not as hard as what my trainer used to do, but I do go a little bit hard, situation and say, oh, it's too hot, really. Get out there. You've already had difficulties at school. Wait till you start working. Wait till life will just keep kicking you if you don't get up.
Absolutely.
Just try and beat it, And that's why I try and implement in them.
And how have you found that experience sort of integrating psychotherapy and counselling with martial arts? Because I'm sure there's been, just as a quick aside, I've heard that there's pushback in any way. Like if you want to be a counsellor, there's always going to be slight pushback from, I guess, more mainstream outlets for anyone who wants to try some type of alternative form of counselling, whether it's art therapy or martial arts therapy. Did you experience that as well?
Well, not really, because I developed it myself before because I had experienced that and that's what I used.
Right.
So when I decided I want to be a therapist, I felt like a bit of a hypocrite if I didn't do it with my own stuff.
Yes.
So as I was training anyway, I started seeing a therapist, because what happens in boxing, and I don't know if other boxers and people with mental health issues have noticed, it brings up emotions to the surface.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you really don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
And especially if you're younger. Adults, I mean, have the same problem, but a lot of youngsters, how are you going to... And that's when I went, I need to go seek therapy as well. And the two combined. But with the younger kids, I combine it without, like, separate sessions. But,
of course.
Older kids, teenagers, but adults, I do separate if they want it.
And what's the response like for most of these?
Been really, really good.
That's awesome.
Like, I have one kid, he doesn't train with me anymore, but mum was like super desperate, and that's no exaggeration, called me up like practically in tears, last resort. And I always say, look, I can't perform miracles, but he came to me head down, like he had PTSD from school, whatever, had ended up in hospital on one occasion. And the one thing I said to him was, you got to walk like a boss.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we started doing that with him, and we saw like this instant little change.
Yeah.
And I thought, this kid. And since, he's not been training with me now for the last few months, but this is a kid that didn't have friends, didn't have sleepovers.
And now just...
not just
not
like that overnight.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But picked up the skill, obviously. And got friends, has sleepovers, just took to high school like no problem, ducked to water.
That's fantastic.
I mean, there's a lot of cases like that, but he's one of my,
big
changes.
Yeah, well, it's like a lot of these kids never have a taste of what it feels to be confident, what it feels to have a strong sense of self or self-identity. Right. And martial arts obviously can provide that, particularly in the right context. Especially, like, I know, I'm sure you've had similar experiences growing up where, you might be in a situation where you might be being picked on and whatnot, and there's something about the first time you stand up for yourself or standing up for someone else as well. Yeah. Like if your friend's being picked on, there's something, you don't necessarily get a surge of like, I'm a boss maybe, but sometimes you get this feeling of like, I'm proud that I did that. There's a certain dignity to it. And people don't really find that until the first time they stand up for themselves or stand up for someone else.
That's true, and that's what happened to him. It's one of his mates, I don't know, punched him in the face or something.
Geez.
And I'm like, how did you rate that?
Yeah.
And he's like, 3 or 4. But he's like, I know I can fight. Because I teach them to fight so they don't.
Yeah.
You use your body, you use your words. But if someone puts hands on...
That's the principle of fighting.
And self-defense, not take them on and try and,
absolutely right. That's why it never fails to amaze me how there are some people who turn up to gyms, again, you can see this on YouTube, boxing gyms, and they will go and they will want to pick a fight. I want your best fighter. And they've never fought before, and they'll pick their best fighter. So what do you think's going to happen? Like, these guys are the nicest people because they're killers. That's the whole point.
And you can pick it a mile away. I mean, I've had those.
Yeah.
So at my gym, because, after the another female that was quite a good fighter, I was kind of maybe that next. If a female came in that wanted to like strut her stuff, I was the person, I get the nod from the instructor and it's like, okay, I'll do my thing. Yeah. But you can pick them a mile away, right? Yeah. They come in, let's put those wraps on and just walk around like I own the place. I mean, when I started training with Pradeep, you don't need to tell people your skill. They will see it.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And I walked in and I'm like, hey, is it all right if I train in your class?
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. I don't need to tell him.
Of course.
The skill is there.
The skill is there. He can
but
see
you had, I remember one female at the gym in Adelaide, and she would come in, put wraps on, and I'm like, and he'd be like, and I'm like, got it.
Yeah.
Because they want to go hard.
Of course.
To prove a point.
It's coming actually, funny enough, from a place of insecurity.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it is.
And it is. And for a lot of people, it is what you said. It is coming in and acting, I want to take on. Yeah. But there are others, because it is scary.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Someone's throwing punches at you.
Yeah.
And then you have to throw them back. Of course, you're going to go hard to defend yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's why typically when you spar as well, the person who has the least experience might have a little bit... the person with the most experience will be the one that is wearing the mouth guard.
And cops the punches but I also, as, an experienced boxer, you sort of go, okay, don't punch hard. I'm not going to hurt you.
Yes.
I did that with a friend of mine. She's a world champion and she lives here now, but she was originally from Adelaide.
Yep.
And when we first sort of started training, I would go hard. And she goes, you don't have to go hard. I'm thinking, do you know who I'm fighting?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's only sparring, but from now, more of an experience point of view, you're not going to go hard.
No.
They do, but you've got, and I always used to warn them, don't go hard. Because if you go hard, you hit me, I might accidentally
Yeah,
hit
get a
you
bit
back.
excited. Yeah, of course.
Well, it's not that. It's defending yourself.
Of course. Yeah. It's
but it
also
depends
a
who's
natural
coming at you. Like I said, if it's someone who wants to prove a point, well, I'll prove that point right back. But if it's someone who's learning, and I get that fear, of course you're going to go, hey, just, I'm not going to hurt you.
Yeah, that's right. And it's funny because you a lot of the people, as we mentioned, these fighters, these actual trained killers, guys and girls, they will oftentimes come across as the nicest, sweetest people, particularly like when you first meet them. They're very kind, they're very gentle, because they know that if the shit hits the fan, that they would be able to handle themselves.
Exactly,
it's the person who's always like riled up, that there's something a bit, there's a
exactly
a
right.
bit more
And that's what
concerning there.
annoys me when people have opinions on boxers like that.
Right.
Even trying to teach martial arts in schools, because I've been trying to do that. But a lot of the time it's this attitude of, and it's, I don't know, it's no one's fault, but maybe it's lack of experience and knowledge. But it will encourage violence. But it won't actually.
Yeah.
It will actually create the opposite effect.
Yes, yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Because I don't go out looking for fights. And as you know, and being in, these circles, no boxer walks out going, hey,
No.
I want to take you on. No.
Exactly.
We use words, we use body language, we stand up for ourselves.
Yeah. And you learn those sort of subtle cues to
Of course.
deflate a situation.
And you're not going to, like I tell my kids, if someone tries to do something to me, I'm not going to sit there and try and take them on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, we use words and walk off. Why would I want to sit there and get into a fight?
Yes, yeah. Well, you're talking about that you're thinking of having another fight again
Yes.
after so many years. And what was sort of the impetus to do that?
Well, things have changed for me now, and more so mentally. And as I said, when my last fight was with 2-11, I fought in overseas, Hong Kong, and that was a Sang Shao bout. Almost won that one, so we became very close. But that was because because she was from there, they needed her to win. So I know it's there now. And 14 years later, so from 2011 to now, I know that mindset is different. I know what I need to do, and I want to give it a go for me, not to prove anything to anyone else, to show that I can do it.
So it's more okay. So it's just to prove to yourself.
Yeah,
essentially.
exactly right.
And have you started the training process?
Not 100%. Life has gotten in the way at the moment, but I know what I need to do. So that part of it is, and once I engage,
Who's your trainer?
Pradeep Sihag Singh.
How's the relationship been with Pradeep?
Oh, really good.
Yeah?
Really good.
How'd you meet Pradeep?
Absolute MMA in here in Melbourne, Victoria.
Oh, cool.
So originally from Adelaide.
Yeah.
As we said, and someone advised me of go visit Absolute MMA, go see this guy, started training with him, and now he's got his own gym, Altius, in Collingwood. So I've been with him for like 8 years now.
Oh, cool. So you've developed a strong
Oh,
relationship.
absolutely.
What's the training relationship like? Like what are the sessions consist of most? Is anything unique to him or?
For me, look, one thing I actually got a lot from him was the footwork.
Right.
Whereas where I used to train, it was all about conditioning and, if you want to fight, this is what you're going to have to do.
Yep.
So experience the fighting first
Yep.
to see if you've got it, and then you taught the skills. Where in this scenario, I get taught the skills, which I already had, but it's like make them better, tweak them for a better word, and then sort of integrate the sparring and the fighting.
So it's just it's coming at it from a different point.
Absolutely,
okay, because
absolutely.
And what do you think? Well, considering you've had obviously many fights in the past, what do you think you'll be doing differently now that you're a bit older, a bit wiser as well? What do you?
I don't know about the wiser. Definitely the older.
Do you know who you're fighting?
No.
Okay.
I know nothing. There's a couple of fights I'm looking at towards the end of the year. So no, I don't care who I fight. I just want to know that I can get in there fully prepared. I'd like to say one and done, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, no, it's just more for me. And look, it will be great for my kids to see, no matter what age you are, and anyone out there that thinks I'm too old to.
Yeah.
Do
your kids want to get involved in the fight game?
Well, I've got good sparring partners there because some of them grow now. They're a bit taller and hit harder. And,
lovely.
Yeah, so it's great.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Is it a Masters tournament?
Well, I'm hoping a Masters and Queen of the Ring, but we'll see. I don't want to sort of say too much at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right,
which is why I didn't mention it the first time. But
okay, fair enough.
But yeah, look, if anything, it would be those two, the Masters and Queen of the Ring.
Yeah, beautiful. And look, I know a bunch of fighters don't necessarily like talking about sort of their specific style or approach to fights. If you could describe that for yourself, how would you describe your own style as a fighter in particular? That's
a good question because even though I'm a southpaw, I started off as an orthodox. So for those that don't know the difference, as an orthodox, you are right-handed, as a southpaw, you're left-handed, so I'm left-handed, but my pre-trainer that was in Adelaide, he just kept me the same way as an orthodox fighter, so I can actually fight both styles now.
Right.
So when I went to, so I had 2 trainers in Adelaide. Had one, the first one for 11 years, and then I had another one for a few years before I moved to Melbourne. And he switched me to southpaw, which is what I should have been.
Yes.
And ever since then, so it's probably been a split. 11 years as an orthodox, 11 years as a southpaw.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And would you consider yourself more of an aggressive, like front foot type fighter? You're getting out there.
I'd like to be, definitely front foot, because that's how. Because when you train with a trainer, you tend to pick up their
habits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
and
that?
I remember, well, more so from the original trainer that I had in Adelaide, I could find that my style was very similar to his. But as a southpaw now, it's kind of become sort of my own, because Pradeep is orthodox fighter, whereas I'm a southpaw. So you sort of pick up your own, but I feel like I've can become a little bit more aggressive.
Fascinating. Okay, yeah. So that you've sort of got that in your toolbox, but you can use it as you will, essentially. I'm curious to know how, considering you obviously, as you said, you're a 2-time silver medalist in the stick championships, right? Stick fighting championship, and also a bronze medalist there as well. Is there a way to implement the techniques that you use in stick fighting into boxing? Is there a way to integrate it?
Absolutely, great question, because they're very similar. Right.
Are they?
The movements, I mean, I have no sticks on me now, but
we can do it now.
People can jump on my website, or I have a little YouTube channel as well. But very similar movements, because in boxing you have diagonals, in stick fighting you have diagonals, even though you've got a stick in your hand. And just to correct, the stick fighting is actually called Doset Paris Escrima, so it's a Filipino martial art, just for some of the audience out there. Yeah. So the movement is very similar. The stick fighting is right-handed sport, but you can do single stick or double stick, and it's an advantage if you're a left-hander, because most opponents will think you're just right-handed, and I had the upper hand because I was a left-hander as well.
So the only 2 in Melbourne or in Australia?
I think so. No, 2 in Melbourne.
Okay.
For this particular art, because we trained at the same schools under the same instructor.
Yeah.
I don't know whether there's possibly she would have recruited other instructors, but at the time when I moved, I'd heard it was just her and I. I don't teach it, but although some of my kids now do like the change.
Okay.
Because it's great. You know, in any martial art you do, it creates new neural pathways.
So what was it like training with at the Mike Zambezi gym?
I only got to meet him. I didn't actually get to train with him. But it was really good. I got the idea from a friend of mine in Adelaide. They told me where to go. So I was training there for 2 days, for about 2 weeks. 2 times a day for 2 weeks.
Okay.
So morning sessions, evening sessions, the training was like 2 hours each session.
Wow.
And it was pretty amazing.
How was he?
Well, he was all right. I mean, look, I don't want to say...
What?
He liked Australian people, let's just say that. Which was
and
really...
you were Greek as well?
No, because I got some gloves signed from him as well, which I've still got till this day. And hopefully when I go back to Greece in October, maybe I can do a quick little trip and go and train some more there. I think they'll be open because they close at a certain period.
Okay.
I think it's August or September, I can't remember. But I was doing that for 2 weeks straight, which is why I went. So I stayed in Athena, Glyfada, which is one of the area near where the gym is, basically. It was amazing. Some of the fighters that he had there, some of the young ones I got to train, up and comings.
Right.
Yeah,
anyone notable
off
now?
the top of my head, I mean, I'm talking 9 years ago now.
Okay, so it's a bit of time ago.
Yeah,
cool.
But they were really good. But they changed the training to suit me. But even though I know how to kickbox, obviously I'm more of a boxer, so a lot of the training was like boxing.
Oh, okay.
It was so good though. I used to walk there. Train, walk home,
Yeah, well, I've from what I understand as well, like I've known a few people that have met him. They say that he's a lovely guy.
Yeah, he is. He's very down to earth.
Passionate.
Yeah. A lot of people mistaken the fact that they think he actually is Australian and comes from Melbourne.
How do they get? Because he's just a Greek Aussie.
I don't know. Yeah, I've heard that a lot, but no, he's definitely.
He's from Greece,
and he's got a couple of gyms in Greece.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where the other one is, but that one was in Glyfada, so I went and stayed, which is near Athens.
Yes,
basically.
yes.
So I spent 2 weeks there.
Wow.
Didn't train with him initially, but
was it ever on the cards that you were going to have a fight in Greece?
Look, never say never. Maybe I can do that when I go in October this year.
Yeah,
There's a great idea.
Absolutely.
Why not?
No,
I'll be pretty prepped.
Of course. So partly as well, the reason why I'm asking is because there is this. Obviously, we're talking about sort of masters competitions, and we have a couple of fighters at Fight Fit as well who are involved in that competition, masters tournaments and whatnot, going overseas and fighting. And it's very inspiring to see fighters going over there, especially as you said, like people who haven't trained in a while, or it's been years, and like getting back in the ring and actually taking it seriously for titles and for championships, it's something that is quite uplifting, right? And it plays into sort of the ethos of your book, which is you got to find that sort of passion, that boxer within, and use that in all aspects of your life.
Absolutely.
Even as you go on, if you want to, maybe you don't want to take it too seriously, there's always the opportunity to get back in the ring and prove to yourself, as you're saying, that you can do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's it's something that's very, you can take a lot from that. I guess one of the other questions that I have for you is, now that you've obviously traveled overseas, you've fought overseas, you've won titles overseas, you won gold at the Pan Pacific Championship. What has been, I guess, the main highlight of your career, your fighting career so far? If it hasn't happened yet, maybe that's also up for discussion.
Maybe it's going to happen this year.
But what has it been so far for you personally?
Fighter's mindset and transferring that, I think, to the kids.
Okay.
Like, yeah, you can get super fit, and that was a big highlight too. I mean, I think my fittest I was at 30, fighting fit and ring fit and outside fit. That was amazing too, what your body can do, or more so what your mind can do. And that's what I think people put limits on themselves. And that's where the martial arts, and depending on your trainer, like if they push you and you push yourself, you can take yourself, to beyond limits. Like when I first started training at the gym in Adelaide, my intent was just to get my black belt, as I mentioned earlier, not stay 11 years and compete internationally and nationally and, be multidisciplined. So that was, for me, it was like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it just kind of all fell into place.
But more so, like you said, with the mindset of life, it really is digging yourself out of holes.
Yeah.
And I had to do that most recently, but without getting into detail. It was watching, funnily enough, Cobra Kai. I went, oh my God, you've been battered, bruised, you've had injuries, you've had, if you can withstand that, you can withstand this. And it was that turning point. And that's what I want people to understand, that I think we underestimate what we've got here and here.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I think that even based on your book, but also just our conversation now, is that the mindset is paramount to you. Over all the accolades that you can potentially get from fighting in any domain, it's the mindset that
exactly right. Because you can imagine, when I first started, I ended up training with this girl with an Olympic coach, and she was more like the alpha female. I mean, we're all good now, we're friends, whatever. But I had only just started, and there was this competition of, hang on a minute, there's another alpha female coming in, and I got battered and bruised for weeks. This was a weekly thing, and it was like I went to my trainer. No sympathy, of course. I want to give it up. I can't do this. Oh, so you want to give it up? He's saying, and I'm like, more tears, whatever. And I thought, no, I'll just keep going. And as I kept going, obviously I got a bit better. It didn't hurt as much, because if you've ever had a punch in the face, although saying that, I'd rather have a punch in the face than a shot in the liver.
True. Yeah, I've heard that. It just
liver
decimates
shots
you.
Hurt like nothing you've ever experienced.
Okay, yeah. So that's interesting, because I've heard that, especially for a lot of people, as we talked about, the big dog in the gym coming in and wanting to prove themselves. Sometimes you end up becoming their best friend after a while as well.
Well, look,
or you end up
I got
developing
to understand it because I was always interested in people's behaviours, thus why I became a therapist as well. But that came from a young age.
Yeah.
And once I got to know her background, you're sort of, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
You can start to click.
But it was like, man, take it easy on me. Like, this is...
Yeah, absolutely. Of course.
It was hard, but, got there in the end.
That's it. I have a couple of questions about sort of your experience at the Pan Pacific Games and for the Stick Fighting Championship. Take us through sort of, I guess, those final moments in both of those tournaments when you were up against your opponent. What was the feeling like? Take me through those moments if you can.
Like it was yesterday.
Yeah. Okay.
So the world titles, I think it was 2007 for the stick fighting, where I got my 2 silvers and a bronze. Years before, I went to America and I competed. And just to give you some idea around mindset, I was not in a good headspace. I went, I fought once and I lost. And I thought, if I'm going to do this again, I'm going to have to train like a crazy person, which is exactly what I did leading into the Worlds. Yeah. I trained, I don't know how many hours. I couldn't even tell you, morning, evening, hands were bleeding, because when you're holding a stick, your skin obviously rubs against the stick, even though you are wearing gloves when you're competing. When you're not competing, it's hitting tires with sticks and just to get that wrist flexibility. But leading into the 2007 fights, so there was girls competition, female competition, male competition. I was a bit nervous, obviously, and I thought if we can postpone, in my head I was saying that they moved the females to the next day, I've got this. And as it happened, they had the males first and females the second. And I thought to myself, all I want to do is win one. If I can win one, and I got through 9.
Oh,
and that's how I ended up with 2 silvers and a bronze. It's a very fast sport. So with boxing, you're going to get 3-minute rounds, 12 rounds. If it's professional, amateur is obviously a lot less, but it's a minute round. So if wearing 4 kilos of armour, you're either holding 1 stick or 2 stick. It looks like from an outside observer that you're just hitting, but there is actually technique behind it because there are katas involved as well. But it was, once I won that first one, something clicked over and it was, I just knew I would, because prior to that when I was training, my trainer could see obviously the work I'd put in and he goes, I could see you'd be silver or gold. And to have someone tell you that when
belief.
you a few years ago you had lost one fight and that was the end of that.
Yeah.
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it instills belief.
And absolutely. And that's the biggest thing too, because I never believed in myself. And just, none of that was there. Not good enough, the whole thing. And when you have people surrounding you, and I know you shouldn't depend on people, but people that actually care about you and enforce that, you sort of step back and go, if they're saying that, there must be something.
Makes a world of a difference.
And then moving on to the Pan Pacifics, that was another interesting one about mindset. I wasn't training as hard. I didn't really want to do it. There was some life stuff going on, but I didn't know whether it was, do I want to fight again or is it work-related? Once I realised it was a work-related, the switch flicked again, preparation, and these 4 fights were round robin. So you'd fight for 1 minute, then you'd have a rest, and then you go again. But the rest periods weren't like, a lot of time.
Yeah.
So you were literally ready to go. You'd have your helmet in your hand just waiting. I fought one of my most amazing fights was with a trainer. She is in Wollongong. Her and her husband own a gym there, Reflex, and she's just fast. We have probably 2-3 years age different maybe, but what an athlete. And we had the best time.
That's good.
She won one, I won one against each other, but just to fight against someone that really knows what they're doing. But just to have that confidence. And with stick fighting, it was funny. I don't know whether it was the protective gear where it didn't worry me and I'd won more, awards, medals, whatever you want to call it, through that versus boxing. So I don't know exactly what it was, the difference maybe in boxing because you're, let's call it naked. Like there's no protection. It's just you and someone, that's a perfect word, someone else, you know what I mean? It's just you and them and that's it. They want to knock your head off, vice versa. But with stick fighting, you had the helmet and so maybe that was the difference. But those two, they were pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing moments in your life. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, what's on the radar for you outside of the fight, the fight that you're wishing to have at the end of the year? What's on the radar outside of that for Vickie Simos?
Well, plenty, hopefully. Looking for, so as part of my book, putting together, not me, colleagues and I putting together a documentary because I'd like to turn my book into a movie. So for anyone out there looking for some funding, I'm also looking at sponsoring soccer teams because I want to work with kids through teams, spreading the word a bit more. So if any teams out there want me to, a bit of a contra deal, help out, show you what I can do, basically showcase my skills and just build the business so I can have, financial freedom and that way I can go see my mum a lot more interstate and travel interstate and maybe help kids interstate and overseas. Yeah, it sounds big, but I'm all for the big.
That's it. And focus on the most important things.
Absolutely, which is family as well, yeah.
Well, Vickie, thank you very much for coming on. It's been an absolute amazing conversation. As you said, we've known each other for quite some time now, so I really appreciate you coming on and doing this and sharing your story. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for watching this episode of Combat and Conversation. We hope you enjoyed it. Stay fit, stay healthy, and we hope to see you at Fight Fit soon. Thank you very much.